This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Happy Father's Day, Philly. I'm executive producer of CityCast Philly and a Philly father of two, sitting in for Trinae Nuri today. We're going to be talking about fatherhood in 2025 and what the deal is with being a dad in Philly. And we'll be having this conversation with two experts. A journalist, Joe Gajunas, who created the new documentary series Grown Up Dad, airing this weekend on PBS. And Joel Austin, the founder of Daddy University, which helps fathers be better dads. It's Thursday, June 12th. I'm Matt Katz, and here's what Philly's talking about. All right, guys, you're both professional dads in your own ways. I'd like you each to tell me about your kids, the people who made you a dad, and then what you're now doing to help other dads. Joel, you want to start us off?
Daddy University is the longest male parenting education company in the United States. We are now 21 years old, Philly born and raised. It started by me having my first son. And then when I had my second son, some 3 or 4 years later, my first son got invited to a big brothers, big sisters training class, a class at the hospital to help out, to show how you know, as a big brother, you can help out your parents. Mm-hmm. At that class, when I sat in there, I realized everybody had a class but me. Everybody got education but me. And now my almost 6-year-older is smarter than me and has had an education in infant. And I said, this is just wrong. So I started the company 21 years ago, giving out information, giving out help, holding support groups. Now we do events, and it's just seeing the evolution of fatherhood is amazing.
Wow. And how many kids do you have in all?
Currently it's 7.
Wow.
7?
My daughter's my favorite.
How many girls, how many boys?
6 and 1.
Oh,
yeah.
That's why your daughter's your favorite, because all the rest of the boys.
She's my last. I hope they don't hear this. I love you all. So, yeah.
Amazing. Fantastic.
I have trouble with just one kid, so congratulations on that. Matt, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I have one son, Gabe. He's 8 years old. And this started for me really in COVID when, we're all locked down and I'm trying to be the best dad I can. And I realized I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I just felt completely overwhelmed. And everywhere I turned for, I thought, advice was just really kept showing me like a bumbling dad, someone who was funny and lovable, but not really that competent in what they did. And I was like, I wanted to be different because I had a father who was a very traditional provider. There'd be days, most of my childhood, I'd maybe see him 2-3 days, an entire month, and he just wasn't around. And I didn't want to repeat history. I didn't want to be that same kind of dad. So how do you change that? How do you become better? And I decided to start talking to people, and everyone's like, I wish I knew more about these topics. I wish I could talk about these things with other dads. I'm like, all right, why don't we talk more about it? And so I have a TV show coming out on Father's Day. This is called Grown Up Dad. It is a nationally broadcast show on PBS that we cover important things like this year it is on screen time limits. It is reclaiming a healthy masculinity. It talks about friendship and loneliness with men and dads. And most recently, it is digital manipulation and media literacy. I help to understand what our kids are receiving and how we help them have a critical eye on the world.
You talked about your dad not being around very much, and you both talked about how you were interested when you became dads about how to, do this better and do this correctly. Is that what might be fundamentally different about being a father today compared to maybe our father's generations?
We do a Father's Club, and Father's Club is every 2 weeks. We literally sit around talking about answers, solutions, problems. We vent and just about this topic. And one thing we realized, and I always say that my grandfather was a beeper, if you can recall that, and my dad was a kind of a flip phone, and I am now a smartphone. Those parenting styles, they did work. that communication did work during that time. But I realized, just like Bob, that I was left alone a lot more than my dad. I was with this family of empowerment. She worked 8, I worked 8, and I'm caretaking much more than my dad. And I realized at one point I liked it. Like, it was fun. Like, and I also realized I'm pretty darn good at this. And then I found, how empowering I was and how positive I was, that it wasn't the breadwinner thing. It was the quality time thing. And that in all my masculinity, I loved being on the floor. And, you wear this shield. So I consider all my dads, you look at us outside at work and we're protectors and providers and we're strong and we have to be strong. We have to fight for our family and all of that. But we love this environment and we love this play and we love this comedy and these dad jokes. They're really good. I don't care what you say. These puns and this sarcasm and the necessity of us has been masked. And now we're out here saying, you can't do it without us properly.
Yeah.
You can brag that you this, but you can't do it without us properly. So.
Yeah.
Growing up for me, I always thought that dads were more like drive-by parents. They weren't really necessary. And then becoming a dad myself, I realized that the more I was with my family, the more I would actually engage and be present. I found more strength. I felt more masculine the more I was with my family, and I would find more joy and connection and fulfillment. And that's not a message I ever got growing up. I didn't see that from anyone in my orbit. And so I didn't understand why that was the message that I feel like has kept cropping up too repeatedly. It's obviously getting better. I think my generation too, like we are much more present than the fathers and grandfathers before us. And I love that. But I think there's still a question of what is it the dads want to be now? Because that question has never really been asked of us, because it's always been very much like the mom is the caretaker. We are more provider and protector. But I love being able to now understand that we can be any kind of dad we want to be today and bring so much more energy into that relationship.
It is interesting that it is so identical to the empowerment movement. And to be honest with you, I faced kind of a backlash, or fathers face some kind of a backlash. My women have pushed for empowerment, equity, and to be equal. And we are still not seen in that light. So they struggle. A mother and a woman struggles with how much should I be a mother, and how much should I be a woman in the workplace, and this kind of crazy balance. And we are beginning that empowerment movement, that struggle movement as well, because now we are at work 9 to 5 with pictures of our kids. And we miss them now. And as we push towards this equity, sometimes there's some backlash on the parenting. You should not be at home. Why are you as a male pushing a stroller? I've showed up to doctor's appointments and they're like, okay, as soon as mom shows up, we come to school and they're like, okay, Mr. So-and-so. I'm like, well, those people were mom. How come I'm Mr.? We're struggling with, give us the same equity, equality that you're fighting for, and it's got to be okay. You cannot fight for justice and say, well, Dad, don't push a stroller. It doesn't equate.
Yeah. So you're pushing for those things and you're pushing for the rest of the world to see you as a equal in terms of as a parent. And then what do you hear from dads beyond that in terms of their concerns, worries, fears, challenges right now that might be specific to this moment in time?
For us here, a lot of fathers doubt themselves. And my first thing is that you are an awesome and incredible father. Right off the back, from birth, you get a C+ because of the DNA and chromosomes. Half of this comedy, half of the looks, half of what the child eats, half of what the child likes or infant likes, you already have the answers to. Your DNA and chromosomes provided that. So we're just building on more. So I try to get them to get that confidence. Because when you come from a culture of my dad didn't hold, my dad didn't such and such, it's a culture and you're thinking, well, if I do this, am I this? So this coming out and understanding your balance, that you are a superhero. We literally are Clark Kent and Superman at the same time at 9 to 5
Yep.
with the glasses. And then when we come home, you were literally able to put this cape on and see how powerful you are and even who you can save. Because sometimes my daughter or my sons are going through something, and my personality, the way I can balance, helps them understand who they are and where they got it from, and that certain things are okay.
What we struggle with as fathers is really understanding that we want to be present, and we are expected to be much more now. And I like that the bar has been raised, but it's so hard still within the workplace to make that happen too, because you can't get to soccer practice when you're always working till 5, 6 o'clock at night. You can't be home to make dinner every night too, and try to bring that equality into the home because you're always still in the workplace. And that is what I think we're really struggling now with too, is because we want to be that. We find more fulfillment in it. And actually, there's a correlation between the more flexibility we have at work, the actual higher fulfillment we're finding in that job too. And I wish more employers knew that, because that breeds loyalty, and that breeds just a worker that's like very happy to be where they're at as well.
You brought up presence again, and I find myself, the more time I spend with my kids, when I'm not around them, I find myself missing them. Like it's an addiction in a good way.
Yes, that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
And you spend more of that time, and it's good for them, it's good for you, and then you don't have to struggle as much to make that time, because you want to be back there with them so badly. And then the other piece of it for me is, last night I had an hour or two with my son, and we could have been on our screens in the same room, and that's sometimes cool and all good, but instead we played horse on the little basketball hoop in the basement for an hour.
Nice.
I won, by the way.
Hello.
High five. That's well done.
Yeah.
That's one of my dad things. I don't let them win.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to play, man. They're kids. They want interaction. They want play. And I try to remind myself, I never regret playing. I never do.
And honestly, telling dads that it's okay to play, to be on the floor with them, is a message that I think we're finally getting too, because that's not something that's been ingrained in us and taught over years and years of in past generations. Like now it's like, yes, join them on there and just be silly. And that's some of the best interaction and what you can teach them. And that builds their own confidence, that builds their own resilience as well.
I will say it on this show that we are 10 times better than mothers when it comes to silliness. We run silly. Okay, we don't have a problem with a cape. We can turn a 2-minute bedtime story into an elaborate event of lightning and thunder, and people are flying in the room. It was only a 2-minute book, supposed to be in bed at that time, but we elaborate, and we have these imagination, and they absorb it like a sponge, and they need the balance. I say that I told my son one time, before you were born, I was living. I mean, I was in college. I was living. I was living. But once you were born, I became alive. And I didn't see flowers the same way. And small things brought me purpose. I went to work before he was born, but then now I go to work and I get something and he likes it. And it's a deeper purpose. And everything has like a tastes different and smells different and feels different. Like when you're walking in a park and somebody picks up a dandelion, you're like, I've walked over those, and they didn't matter, but now the dandelions are even, for me, I'm a dad, I'm out weeding and feeding, trying to get rid, but they pick them up and they're special, and it changes your world.
I like your alive analogy. I always say it's like my heart found a new compartment when my son was born that I didn't know existed before. And so the capacity to love something so much and so unselfishly, it's just been the one of the best things that's ever happened about being a dad that no one ever told me about too. And I wish other people knew about it, because it's just made me so much more happy in my entire life.
We're going to have more on this dad conversation right after this.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
All right, let's get a little focused on Philly. I was wondering if you guys have any hacks for being a great dad in Philly.
I love living in Philly, and I think the city just keeps getting better every year. Like, I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in like the Willow Grove area, and then after college, I moved into the city. And just a little difference between, a bigger suburban house and more land and a row home. And I'm like, in Philly, if you're a dad, you generally go out for activities. You meet parents and things outside because there's no row home big enough to hold 4 kids and their parents and everyone else in there. And so you want to make sure you be active and enjoy all these cultural locations and museums and parks. And then, for me, one of the things I remember doing a lot with my son is taking advantage of SEPTA. And he was loving the train, and it is free transportation for kids under 12 on SEPTA. So you just would hop on one, ride into the center city, go to Reading Terminal Market, get a donut. He was the happiest kid in the world.
That's
to
great.
Just ride that, and it was cheap. I love that one.
And kids love trains.
I love trains,
and buses,
right?
yeah.
They do. It's free entertainment.
You got any thoughts, Joel?
I have impressed and give my kids the world some of the times when I had the least amount of money. My kids are older now, and they still remember going to Fairmount Park and feeding the ducks. We had some stale old bread, and I didn't have much, so we went and fed the ducks. I do have to say I apologize because I threw bread at them and the ducks chased them. Hilarious for me.
That's amazing. You mean you threw the bread at the kids?
At the kids and
great.
the ducks. And a lot of screaming, but
No trauma,
hilarious.
I'm sure. No trauma.
No trauma at all. They never walk near a duck again. But I really want to get us out of the material and into the innocence. Innocence costs you $2.50, maybe $3 to get on a train and stand all the way at the front and just watch it go in. And it's these innocent ones that last for 40 and 30 years that they think about. The other thing is, I feel like it's a dad's job not to grow kids, but to also find their gift. Each of these kids have a gift. You have a son that will not get out the bathtub, and the mother is upset he will never get out the bathtub, and he's splashing water and things like that. That's because he is an Olympic swimmer, and we have to then find a swim club. Philly offers almost everything, but sometimes we have to be serious enough to say this kid has a gift. Because I know what my grandfather and father did. If you have this kid that won't stop running, but your father was on the track team and your grandfather was on the track team, so you now have to go find a track. So these gifts help find what's going on and what some of the best places to take your kids. And because there's almost everything here with almost every activity or hobby they really are into. And so I think our job is there is so much going on, but what do they like?
Yeah, and noticing what they're liking and what they're asking about. You're walking down the street and they notice the full moon, and they're interested in one or two facts you say about the moon. Then you take them to the planetarium at the Franklin Institute, that kind of thing. Are there resources available in Philly that people might not know about, that dads might not know about, just for like some fathering techniques. Obviously, Daddy University.
So Daddy University, you can find a lot of information. One thing we have on here is called Ages and Stages, which has kind of been hidden from all dads. It's an entire booklet that's just made up of whatever age your child is in. This is most likely what they're going to be doing and how you can handle it and how you can balance it as a dad. The other is all of our events that are happening almost every single month for the next 8 to 9 months that we have going on. The Dads at Play and the Daddy Daughter Dance you can come out and be a part of. We just started our own fraternity. Delta Alpha Delta fraternity has been started. Delta Alpha Delta fraternity has been started, and we are in the process of starting to recruit. I think one of my newest recruits are going to be here, and you have to get a letter from your child. It could be in crayon.
To recommend
a recommendation letter. Crayon and is accepted.
Okay,
yes. It could just a heart. I don't know, and then we can get a chance to sit around in our brotherhood and talk about the pros, cons, solutions, issues. Just like we're talking about here.
There's no hazing. The kids do the hazing for you, right?
Legos alone. I think if you walk across that's our hazing. Not the burning sands, but
Legos definitely hurt way more. I think it's perfect hazing. For me, I think dads in Philly, they need to know. There's so many things, different stages. When your partner's pregnant, first get signed up for childcare, get on a waiting list for daycare, things like that. And then knowing about different, tax credits, knowing about ways to actually put aside more money before it's out of your paycheck, before it's taxed. It's about also finding real dads in other groups too, both online and in your local community. You've got to find a support group. You cannot do this on your own. And then I think what I'm going through now, since my son is 8, is realizing my own life. I really kind of missed friends for a while. I went into, in a way, just survival mode for so many years to get through. And now I'm actually, I have more time to go to see friends and go out. And I'm doing, this year, I bought a 17-game plan to the Phils, for season tickets. And I'm most of the games, I'm asking a friend to join me just to be you need to have your own self back, and how important that is to recenter yourself. And then you can go back into the house and be the best dad and be the best husband you can be. So
can I ask you guys about some rules, guidelines, advice on this kind of thing? Okay. How old do they have to be when you let them walk to Wawa or the corner store or the playground on their own? We're talking, let's say, 1 to 4 blocks. Is there an age? Maybe there's not an age. Maybe it's your own judgment based on their maturity or whatnot. Is it different for the genders?
That's a great question.
First of all, it's different for genders.
I think it's different for genders. Also, how busy the roads are that you're crossing in those 4 blocks.
For my daughter, it would probably be age 32. For my son, somewhere around when they really start coming into what we call prepubescence. Prepubescence is easily to tell. I want to do some things like my dad. I want to wear some cologne like him. I want to brush hair you start coming into this. They start saying things like, "Mommy, I don't want you to kiss me near school." That's your signs for prepubescent. I feel that somewhere around 7, 8, 9, and 10. But you are also allowed to stalk. Let's be clear.
Walk a block behind.
The partial independence of, you're allowed to do the spy 007 and then hurry and run home. So when they get home, they feel they have had total independence, and you're out of breath thinking, did you enjoy your walk? Until you're confident enough. But our job is to push independence.
Yep.
I think right now, 9 is a good age with a friend who's the same age. I think they could go and do some of those tasks together. By yourself, I think maybe another year on top of that is what I'm dealing with. But you want to breed that independence and give them that internal grit. And so even this year, I started having my son okay, hey, I'm picking you up from school and we're going to walk home. You are getting us home. I'm not telling you which way to go.
Right.
We'll go. If we go 3 blocks out of the way, that's okay. because he needs to figure it out for himself. And I just grit my teeth when he makes a wrong turn, but then he'll figure it out. But like that's that kind of giving him that strength and confidence that he can do it without me.
I realized the importance of that independence and letting them kind of, walk a little bit on their own when I noticed my kids weren't like looking at traffic as it was coming. And I'd say, you got to, look for the car. They were old enough to know to look for the car. And they said, well, you're here, you're looking for the car, so I'm not going to look. So that means I got to send them out on their own. And I think kids raised in the city have that sort of instinct, but it needs to be nourished.
Yeah, nourished
by them, trying on independently.
And being in Philly, one way does not mean one way. Cars are still going to go both ways. So you got to look both ways at all times.
Yes. This other rule, social media, screen time, it is, constant battle, particularly my 13-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
I've got the limits galore, but there's hacks. It's a constant battle, and I feel like it will continue to be. Any advice?
I like you said 32 earlier, right? I think that's the best age, right, for social media. I'm personally trying to wait as long as possible. I recognize that I think my son's going to need to have some sort of device soon. He doesn't have any right now, but I think we're considering a watch in another year or so. And then I'm just very much hoping we can wait on social media for at least 3-4 more years too.
Wow.
There's so much wrong with social media and what they are presented with. And honestly, he gets his fix through YouTube still, and we're monitor that. And there's a difference between having the family TV play something that we can all hear and watch and communicate with, or at least hear in the background while we're like cooking or doing some chores, versus what is in your hands in private on headphones. And I think that's really where my concern has been as a father, because of the messaging that they're getting, especially for boys, because now the content is moving so much from, he's so into sports right now. But sports content is leading into more aggressive and manosphere content that is really sending messages that I don't think he should be hearing and I don't agree with. And so I want to make sure that I'm there to make sure I'm helping to monitor that, but also ask him questions. What is he worried about? What does he not understand? How can I help him understand what he is seeing and getting in this crazy social media world that's just an algorithm designed to make him buy and stay online?
I feel social media, it is the yin and yang of our society. There is good, there's definitely good, and then there is definitely rhetoric and evil. Our job is to provide certain boundaries. My parenting style I would describe as, I made this up myself, as democratic dictatorship. Democratic dictatorship. You can't do phones when we're at dinner. You can't do phones when we're here. You can't, there are certain boundaries. And then you can, have a phone. Your grades allow certain things. I don't run my house. Report cards run my house. They are in charge of everything. The report card says, I don't think you can. Report card says your screen time, those kind of things. And also with certain grades, the report card says you're responsible enough. Right now, because that's your credit rating. Your GPA is your credit rating. But the boundaries are okay. And sometimes as parents, I get upset because sometimes parents don't like boundaries because they can make their child sad. They are just learning lessons, tools that we live in a society of certain boundaries. It is totally okay as a parent to say no to some things. It is totally okay to set certain boundaries, especially on the age. I'm allowed to go on your phone and X, Y, and Z. But it's also okay for us to not be like our dads, which is one word: no, yes, and maybe. I think those were the 3 words that they said. It is good for us to switch up from the old generation and say, put it on the table, let's discuss.
Speaking of conversations, I got one last question, and specifically for you as the father of an 18-year-old daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter.
Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry.
First of all, I'm like 30 years older than this person. Like, we have nothing... We have very little in common other than that we live in the same house and we live in Philadelphia and we like the birds. So
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
What things can dads of teenage girls, specifically in the city, do to stay engaged with our daughters?
First, I have to say I apologize.
Thank you.
Because specifically fathers and males, we have not been taught anything about puberty. We have not had the lessons or the guide, and I can't wait to see more about puberty. It is a real thing. It is an entity that enters your house. Puberty says we don't want the same things we wanted before. It is that growth from girl to woman and boy to man, and it's natural, and we all have done it. But it is difficult. It is difficult. There's a lot of regret for us because you start to miss the child. We literally go through grief and loss. And secondly, I found what was best for me is to come down to her level, to watch her movie with her and find out what she gets from it. And what do you think of this person? And kind of flip it to come to her level. And then eventually she'll come to my level and kind of understand. So my advice is to try to go, number one, date your daughter. I don't care what society says. I don't care if it's Chick-fil-A. You'd be surprised how much conversation and intellect you can get from chicken nuggets in a milkshake, how much openness you can get. The other two is, for parents, please start sharing your side of the story. We tend to have this hierarchy of that we never got a bad grade. We don't want to share our downfalls and failures, but it's okay. They are seeing it. They are seeing this, and it's okay to say, I push your grades to be higher because a lot of my family or me, I didn't take advantage of X, Y, and Z. So number one is to try to do something to come to their level, to watch something or read something. If they read a book, you read a book. Yeah. What's their favorite music? And listen to this song, and what did you get out of that song? Yeah. And secondly, don't be afraid to sit over some chicken nuggets and say, your mom wasn't my first love. Like, to be able to...
Talking about crushes in middle school, unrequited crushes in middle school.
As a guy, yes. I got stood up too. And it's not okay to treat your boyfriend like this or treat your such and such. You have to listen and learn as well. I have to teach my 18-year-old that when we go out to dinner, I've said to her the last time, I said, we've been here for 45 minutes and you haven't asked me about my day. I want her to be a better wife or a better partner. Oh, the third thing is, I realize as a dad, we have to always be ready. By the time they work up a conversation to have with you, they'll say something like, can I talk to you for a minute? Or, Dad, do you have a minute? And I realized no matter what was going on, I had to drop and jump in.
That's really helpful advice. And it also seems like I have 20 seasons of Grey's Anatomy ahead of me because that's what my daughter likes.
Gosh, I know.
This is a good segue for you, Joel, to tell me about the daddy-daughter dance, which is coming up this weekend.
This June 14th is the 13th annual Daddy and Daughter Dance. It is at the Arts Ballroom. You can go to our website, Daddy UNIV, get information, Daddy UNIV, look at all the events we're having. It is a prom. It is a quinceañera. We dress up in the most proudest outfit we can. It is a formal, it is a sit-down dinner. It is a time for us to really, really shut the world off and pay full attention to them.
I love it. And we'll have links in the show notes to the episode as well. And Joe, you have a very big weekend nationwide. Your show's coming out. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Grown Up Dad comes out on Father's Day on PBS World Channel, and then here in Philadelphia on WHYY, the first episode airs on Sunday, and then every week for the next 5 weeks. But on top of that, to help highlight and celebrate dads for Father's Day, and an event very opposite the Daddy-Daughter Dance, we've created the Grown Up Dad Dadcathlon that is going to be the morning of Saturday, June 14th. This is going to be in Manayunk, and it is celebrating the skills that good dads bring to support their families and have it in just a really fun way. Again, it is about play. It's about highlighting great things dads do. So competitions like the Lego walk. How far can you go in 60 seconds barefoot over Legos?
Oh my gosh.
Don't spill the juice. A little obstacle course we've got to get liquids to our kids in time. The PB&J crust off and inconvenience stain. Things that are just like real things that dads face every day. and show them just being fantastic fathers and wonderful role models for their kids. It's going to be a lot of fun.
What about the take down the stroller event?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Folding up the
Folding
stroller.
that in time.
And
a
then
good one.
getting it in the trunk or carrying it onto the bus. All that information will also be in our show notes. Gentlemen, happy Father's Day. Between us,
Happy Father's Day.
between us, there's 10 kids in this room. So much love to your kids. Really appreciate talking to you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode about being a dad and a dad in Philly, share it with another dad or your own dad or a husband. Rate the show, leave us a review, subscribe, and be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. So long.